Hello, welcome back to the channel, Tito African Gray. My name's Scott and this here's Tito. You say hi. He's not going to talk on cue yet, folks. He's still learning, he's young. But as you can see, he's very nervous of the camera. That's why he's rumbling like he is. And I think... what? Anyhow, I want to come on here and tell y'all how Tito became part of our family. It's a pretty good story. I share it all the time, so I figure I'll share it on here, let y'all know. First, I'm going to give Tito a treat. Pistachio? There you go. He loves his pistachios, folks. Of course, you dropped that one. He's nervous for the camera, but... So, to tell you this story, how he came part of our family, I'm going to place him up here on the tree where he's comfortable and give him a treat, and then we'll get into the story. There's his tree right there. We're going to put him up there. Pistachio. There you go. See, now he's got his pistachio, as you can see. I'm going to slide over here. So, how Tito became part of our family? Well, it kind of happened by accident. We already have our dog Buddy, who's been with us for years now. He's 15 years old. He's pretty old. And we weren't looking to get another pet. Not even interested. We were just going to stick it out with Buddy, and that's it. Well, my wife came home from work and told me of a coworker who had just gotten a cockatiel. I said, cockatiel? And she said, yeah, I think that's cockatiel. I said, cockatiel or cockatoo? Because they're two different birds, as you know. So she said, I don't know. Let me get her to send me a picture. So her coworker texted her a picture. And sure enough, let me take these off so the glare don't bother y'all. Sure enough, it wasn't a cockatiel, it was a cockatoo. A Moluccan cockatoo at that. Which, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct. Moluccan. People say it different ways. But anyhow, they got a Moluccan cockatoo, and it was given to them. This bird had been in, I don't know if abusive is the right word, but neglected home is probably the best word for it. And the people that had it, some reason they gave it to my wife's coworker. My wife's coworker took it in, and they had no experience with parrots, but they took this bird in. So I told my wife, I said, you know, Moluccan cockatoo, that's a big responsibility. There's a lot to know, how to care for them, how to take care of them, the attention they need, everything. The cage, everything. So, anyhow, I started texting with her coworker, and I just excited for them, and I was telling them, hey, you need to do this, you need to feed it this, you need a big cage. They require a lot of attention. They, you know, can talk, they can whistle. You know, it's a very nice parrot to have. Well, she sent me pictures. The cage that it was in was way too small to begin with. That's the cage they were giving it. Nothing on her coworker. But, so anyhow, I texted her through the evening about having a Moluccan cockatoo. And it was funny because I told her all this. Next morning, I got a text. Hey, you seem to really know what this bird would need and require, and you seem like you'd be a good fit for it. Do you want this parrot? And like I said, we weren't looking for another pet. We weren't looking to add a family member to our house. See where Tito is here. He's back there. And so I thought it over. I asked my wife, I said, hey, you want to get a parrot? And my wife didn't know nothing about parrots either. You know, like any other wife would probably do, be like, sure, if you want it, get it. So I texted her friend, I said, yeah, bring it over, I'll take it. So she brought the Moluccan cockatoo over, and let me tell you, this bird was neglected. and it was in bad condition. The cage that it was living in was almost just as big as the bird itself. It was not a big cage at all. It was super small. So I'd taken this parrot in, and I'm thinking, okay, start planning. I'll get a bigger cage. I'll get it a tree like I did for Tito, and we'll make it part of the family. Now keep in mind, Moluccan cockatoos, macaws, African grays, Amazons, these birds all live a long time. They can live 50 to 80 years. So I've had some experience in the past. When I was a teenager, I had an Amazon, orange wing Amazon. He was a great pet. I had him for years. And then, as I got older and went on with my life and my career, I had to give him up. So I rehomed him way back. This is talking like in the 80s. Well, before I had that Amazon, to step back, tell you a little history, I told my mom one day that, I wanted to get an African gray. Or not an African gray. I said, Mom, one day I want a parrot. She said, yeah, whatever. Eat your cereal, go to school. So I walk into school to a school bus. And in the bushes, I hear this carrying on. Well, I go over to the bushes, and sure enough, there's an African gray parrot. I found one when I was 11. This is when I was 11 years old. I ran home. I got it, stepped up on my hand. I ran home. I said, Mom, you won't believe what I got. Sure enough, I said, look. And I showed it to her. It was an African gray. So we were going to keep it, not knowing where it came from or whose it might have been. It was just loose, and this is down in South Florida, so parrots get loose often down in South Florida. So we had it for about a week. It didn't talk, it didn't whistle, it didn't do nothing. And I have come to learn that that's what they do in a new environment. They go quiet and they don't whistle. So anyhow, I had it for a week, and the neighbor found the want ad, lost and found ad in the paper. Brought over to my mom, showed them, and sure enough, this bird owner literally lived probably 2 blocks behind me at the time. And so I contacted the owner and returned this bird to him. He was nice enough to give me a reward for it. So with the reward, I took the money and went and got me an Amazon. So keep in mind, I was 11 years old at the time. So I kept my Amazon. His name was Bubba. I kept him for a couple of years. And then, like I said, once I finished high school and went on to my career, having gone into the Marine Corps, you can't take a parrot with you, obviously. So I gave them away. I rehomed them. And so all these years later, my career, everything, I just never desired to have a parrot because I know the amount of attention they need and the care, and I just didn't have the time for it. So now that I'm older, my later years, I got I'm retired now, and I can sit back and spend a lot of time with the pets and with Tito, and provide them a really good home, good environment, and give them plenty of attention. So that is what I'm doing. But to get back how Tito came to us, back to the story, the cockatoo stayed with us for about a week. I think it was about a week I kept that bird. But before I go on, I want to add a clip of this cockatoo so y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. When you see this video, this was nothing on my part. This bird had been neglected, and luckily the people rehomed it. Unfortunately, to my wife's coworker who didn't really know what to do with a parrot that size, so I ended up with it. But let me show you this clip of this cockatoo, and I'll prepare you. She had done some feather plucking, self-mutilation, so all the chest feathers on her are gone. And I'm hoping they grow back. I'm not sure. I don't know. But let me show you the clip of this cockatoo so y'all get an idea of what I'm talking about. So that was, I called her Rosie. That was the Moluccan cockatoo that I got by accident. And I knew from having that bird and obviously it had been neglected, I was thinking this might be a little more than I can handle. I wanted to get her healthy. I didn't have the proper size cage for her because it didn't come with the big cage. Like I said, it had a real small cage. And I just rather have everything in place before I had a parrot of that size and that condition to take care of. So I made the conscious decision to rehome her to a better place, better home, somebody that could spend time with her and actually could take care of her. And I was not in the market for a cockatoo anyhow. So I did not plan to keep her. I was going to rehome her. She was attached to females only. She didn't like men. So that was another challenge for me. The family, my kids and my wife, they all liked her because, you know, something new. They never had parrots or nothing. But I didn't want to subject them to a parrot of that size and that nature to maybe getting bit, possibly getting hurt, or any of the other stuff that comes with required with caring for a bird that size. So anyhow, I took the cockatoo and I rehomed it to a loving lady. Came and picked them up. I gave her away. I didn't charge a dime for her. I got texted a couple days after. The lady went out and bought her a big cage like she required. Was giving her plenty of attention, giving her all kinds of vegetables and fruits and stuff. And so she was being properly cared for, and I was happy about that. But once we got rid of her, I started thinking about it. You know, back in the day, going back to my story when I was 11, I found that African gray. I really liked that bird. And the guy I returned it to was nice enough to say, hey, come over anytime to see it, you know. And I did. I went over to his house a couple times and I saw the parrot and he was talking and he was whistling. And I thought in the back of my mind, you know, that's what I want one day. One day I want to get me an African gray. So after having the cockatoo, rehome the cockatoo, I decided, well, how about it? I think, you know, I asked the family. Family said, yeah, well, let's get one. Let's get a parrot. I said, okay. So I told my wife, I said, I want you an African gray. Well, as many of you might already know, African grays by no means are cheap. You can't find them very cheap. I looked everywhere. The time frame, which was a couple months ago that I was looking, it wasn't breeding season. It wasn't hatching season for eggs. And so a lot of people didn't have them. You know, they were expected to get some in at various pet stores, various places I called breeders. Various breeders said they would have some soon in a couple months. They didn't have none available now. So needless to say, I was like, okay, well, maybe this just ain't meant to be. Well, I got on Facebook and I started searching around. I came across this ad or this post of a gentleman down in Jacksonville, Florida, wanted to rehome an African gray. So I messaged him, I inquired. He told me that Tito was under 3 years old. He was a hand-fed baby. They had been the ones that hand-fed him. He talks, and he does a lot of cool stuff. And I knew I wanted an African gray. I knew that was the parrot that I wanted to end up with. I didn't want to have a yellow nape or a macaw or any of that. I wanted to get an African gray. So I quickly told my wife, I said, hey, I found an African gray. The downside is it's clear down Jacksonville, Florida. We live in North Georgia. So I said I could drive down, pick it up, and drive back. And I told her what it cost. And she's like, okay, if you want to get it, go get it. Well, luckily, Tito came with a very nice cage, which I'll show you here. Came with a very large cage. So that was a plus. And it's one of those, I forget the name of the cage. It's a really quality one. It's really good quality. So I was very happy to get Tito with the proper size cage. It's actually probably larger than you really need for an African gray, but I mean, the bigger the better. It suits him well. He's living his best life. So yeah, I went down, drove down, picked Tito up, and I drove all the way back. It was quite a long trip. And I brought Tito home, and that's how Tito came to be with us in our family. I wasn't sure, is this the bird for me? Is he going to stay? Am I going to have to rehome him? Let's see how he does with everybody. Well, luckily for me, he loves my wife to death. I mean, he just absolutely adores my wife and loves being around her, being on her. I put him on his tree, and he flies immediately to my wife. When she comes home, he recognizes her truck. When she pulls in, starts whistling. I don't even have to look out the door, and I can tell you my wife must have just pulled up, because Tito will go off. He was real silent, like I said. When you first get them, a couple weeks, they're quiet. They don't talk much. They don't whistle. And they just sit pretty much quiet in observation mode and learn their environment and who's around, So a couple weeks went by, we've had him, and man, this bird's been so entertaining. He opened up, he started whistling, he's talkative. I mean, he is just wide open now, talking all the time. Right now he's not, because I got the camera on, and the house is relatively quiet. So he's pretty much content just up there listening to me, watching me. I don't know if y'all see him back here. He's up on the backside of his tree. He's camera shy. I do know that. He's camera shy. He doesn't like the camera much, but he's been doing really well. I appreciate y'all watching the videos and subscribing to the channel. But that's just a story of how Tito came to be. Hope y'all enjoyed it. The Moluccan cockatoo, I thought she would have been awesome. She grew all her feathers back. They are very caring, very lovable parrots. And Moluccan cockatoos are one of the birds that require a lot of attention and a lot of affection. They will love on you and cuddle with you. But one thing though about Moluccan cockatoos, they scream. They can go into screaming fits for 10 to 20 minutes. And I mean, it's loud, like jet engine loud. So that was another reason I did not want to keep Rosie, the Moluccan cockatoo. It was just a little bit too much. My dog is 15 years old. It gave him anxiety. He'd run to the other room when she started screaming. Luckily, Tito does none of that. He doesn't do any screaming. He does his high-pitched whistle, but it's real quick, sort of like a fire alarm. If you have a fire alarm and it beeps every so often, sort of what it sounds like. Other than that, he's not loud at all. If he gets loud, it's usually whistling, which is pretty enjoyable. His talking, which is comical. He loves when the TV's on. He loves when the family is engaged in watching a football game or something on TV. He'll laugh with us and everything. He copies my laugh. But anyhow, that's just a little bit about how Tito became one of our family members and joined our family. I hope you enjoyed this video. And hold on a sec. Let me get the star of the show. Come here. Step up. You gotta see Tito a little bit. But this is Tito. And he's doing that grumbling. He always does that grumble when he's nervous. But anyhow, again, I'm Scott. This is Tito. Thanks for watching the videos. Please be sure to subscribe and hit that like button. And you can hit that bell button to be notified when more videos pop up. We hope you enjoyed this video. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.